Well, hello. Welcome to All Today. We are back again, this time under extremely cold weather. It is in the negatives where Cheston and I live. Luckily, Setzer a little higher. So, how are you guys today?
Enjoying the balmy 20-degree weather. What can I say?
Yeah, it's like you're in the tropics.
I've got -6.
Yes. Yes, -1. It is very cold. It
Yeah,
is.
well, I'm the most negative, so eat it.
And that is why, unfortunately, I decided to do this podcast outside. So,
It was a weird choice,
it's
but we
weird.
thought it would build toughness.
If I would build character.
Yeah,
So,
get some of that grit going.
so if you hear random caribous in the background, it's not Cheston's son this time. It's just the wildlife.
Huddle for warmth and make Star Wars references.
Oh man, I miss Clerks every day. So let's get started then. Setzer, what have you been playing this week?
Well, I started a new character on New Vegas because I was having a lot of fun, but I really wanted to try the hardcore mode,
Oh yeah,
and
I've always said you're pretty
I love
hardcore.
it.
you like the resource management and whatnot you have to do in that?
I think it just makes the game not terribly more difficult, and as much as I hate to use the word, it is a little more immersive, so to
Oh,
speak. Just because you have to pay more attention to what you're carrying and what you pick up in the world. It does kind of highlight some weirdness with the way items are placed in this game, where you're exploring, a vault that's been sealed for so many hundreds of years, right? And they've got like squirrel stew piping hot in a footlocker. But other than, well, I guess the other big thing I hate about it is companions can die.
permanently?
Yeah, permanently. You can be fighting,
Cool.
and Boone takes one to the dome, and it pops up. Boone has died.
Wow.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'd like that.
That would have made Outer Worlds a little more interesting.
yeah. So that's when I usually reload. Those are the only circumstances that I save scum is when someone dies. But other than that, I'm having a lot more fun with it. I've spent a lot more time exploring and actually kind of taking my time. But that being said, I'm about where I left off on my first save file. Once you have a good grasp of the game,
It was quick.
yeah, you can really move.
Well, I
You can
remember
really get shit done.
the second or third time I played it, I was stunned by how quick you get to New Vegas. I was like, whoa. I remember it took forever the first time I played. Then, like, it felt like a couple hours in. I was like, oh, I'm here.
The whole game not in New Vegas.
Well, you're on the outskirts. You're in Nevada. Nevada's
Do you
Yeah.
get to go to Reno?
No, that's too far away.
I guess I don't know my Nevada geography.
You get to play in the shitty little suburbs.
Is there a circus?
Might as well be.
The other major development with New Vegas here is, I've really been enjoying it, and my buddy Phil, he also really loves this game. We were talking about it, and I said, maybe I'll play Fallout 4
Nope.
and see the difference, right?
Yeah.
And he's kind of like, no, 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 no. Fallout 4 bored me to tears. But you know what we should do? We kind of started talking about morbid curiosity about Fallout 76,
Yeah.
and it was on sale for $10. So
Oh God.
yeah, after I beat New Vegas, I'm gonna play some Fallout 76.
This is the modern day version of skinny dipping. Come on, let's go play Fallout 76. Nothing bad can happen to us.
If you can get Fallout 4 for like $10, which is on sale for all the time, so that shouldn't be too much of a problem. I feel like you should at least try it in that regard. Certainly worth playing more than 76 is.
Well, that's not really the point, because
Well, I understand
I
that.
like the idea of going from, what's widely considered one of the best games of all time, the height of the Fallout franchise,
Use the depths.
to one of the worst games of all time, and the worst game of the Fallout franchise. Get the whole spectrum.
But I look at what the Fallout 4 and what Fallout New Vegas are trying to achieve, and they're basically the same thing. Like if you're looking to judge quality, I feel like that's a better way to do it because 76 is trying to be something completely different than what New Vegas was. So
Yeah,
I see what you're
exactly.
saying,
I think
but
that's what makes it such an interesting dichotomy.
yeah,
Because what I like most about New Vegas is definitely not the shoot 'em's gameplay.
No.
It's the atmosphere, it's the story, the characters, the factions.
Yeah, what were
The
they thinking
environment.
making a Fallout game where none of that's a factor?
Exactly, exactly, and that's what I want to see is what's the trade-off here? What's the gunplay improvement to atmosphere train wreck ratio here?
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but haven't they added in some amount of
Yes,
narrative and
they have.
NPCs and all that? I mean, obviously it launched without any of that, but I think now it does have some kind of narrative underpinning.
They did.
Right?
They had a big update. I'm not
Okay.
sure if it was paid DLC or not though.
Well, I assume
No,
it was.
it's free.
Is it?
It's
Okay.
part of the base game now,
Gotcha.
Wastelanders. But
Right, that's what it
from
was
what I
called.
understand, it's not like New Vegas or Fallout 3.
No,
it's more of a
yeah.
like there are a few people standing around, and you can talk to them, and they're kind of like vendors in Destiny, where they just kind of stand. And
Thank you for
get
using a
talked
reference
to.
point I can't relate to.
Yeah,
Could you
you're
speak
welcome.
to it in a way I understand?
You know how in Mario there's a character who stands still and does nothing?
Yes.
Something like that.
Yeah, like the little fork guys in the Luncheon Kingdom?
Sure.
Yeah. So it's like that.
I think. I don't know.
Well-
I haven't
well,
actually
yeah, that's awesome.
played the game.
I love
haven't
the Fort
actually looked
Guys.
into it. So,
That sounds like they listened to complaints, but did not listen to the substance of the complaints.
right. Yeah, I mean that kind of is my impression of the game. A very superficial understanding about what people liked. And I think that kind of extends to Fallout 4. My understanding from people who've played it is it's a game about collecting duct tape and desk fans and coffee mugs and then breaking them down into, raw material that you can use to build guns.
That's not how I played Fallout 4. But I don't, to each their own. To me that was just Fallout 3, but a very weak overall story. Kind of a mildly interesting setting, but still played like I think at that point, 6-year-old, 7-year-old game. As buggy as all get out.
I didn't mess with the gun creation, so
Yeah,
that I can't relate.
I think you can avoid that. I think that's for the people who are really the type of people who only play Bethesda games, or that's their main thing. I think that's the extent that they get into Fallout 4, but for me, just dipping my toes in, my problems with Fallout 4 had nothing to do with the scavenging.
I was watching a video about it,
I actually liked Fallout 4
and
okay. I don't want to be too harsh.
the settlement building, what struck me about that was, the guy playing, he's just going around and okay, here's a broken car or whatever, right? A blown out car from 200 years ago. And he just clicks it and then says dismantle. And it's like, okay, X amount of scrap metal has been deposited. But then you play, New Vegas, and they're burnt out husk cars all over the place. And, people are living in dilapidated buildings. They don't even bother to wipe down the glass of the windows or replace the ceiling panels, mop the blood up off the floor. It kind of begs the question, if one guy can go and revitalize the wasteland and make all these settlements, are you seriously telling me the NCR can't at least sweep out McCraren Airport?
It's making a statement about how useless the government is. So it's actually quite an intelligent way of doing things, if you think about it.
Oh, thank you, Todd.
Yes, please buy his game.
Hey, remember when they announced Fallout 76 and they didn't say what it was, but they took pre-order money?
I do.
That was pretty funny.
But I mean, I can't imagine there were a ton of people pre-ordering it based on nothing.
Are you being facetious?
I am a little
Okay.
bit.
The way I remember it, they said it's going to be multiplayer Fallout.
They didn't say anything.
They didn't
They
say
put a
anything.
website. They just said Fallout 76. There's a little trailer. And
Oh,
then
really?
a month later is when they showed off that it was
they
multiplayer.
didn't reveal what it was until
People
E3.
were mixed. The crowd went mild. At that point, I think Schreier had leaked it, And a lot of people were like, "Oh, come on, no way, please, it can't be."
But whenever Schreier gives information that's like bad news, people don't believe him. Like, oh, you idiot journalist. Like when FF15 got delayed 85 times, and every time he reported it, like Reddit was like, this idiot journalist, and he was right every time. So I felt like 76 was a lot of that. Like, oh, let's see. I'm sure it's Fallout 4 New Vegas here, and then it wasn't.
One thing that stood out to me was I was looking at 76, right? And they have that Fallout First subscription service.
Yes.
So, they've got all these little bonuses, like, oh, you can make a private server, you get extra storage capacity, bullshit like that, right? One of the bonuses is you get the NCR Ranger armor from New Vegas if you subscribe for 1 month.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
And
So you subscribing?
no. What struck me was, like, imagine being the artist who made that design for a different company 10 years ago. And then, here we are in 2020, and Bethesda, like, trots it out to bait people into their crappy subscription service.
Well, it's very funny given that I know Bethesda's very sensitive about people liking New Vegas better than their games.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny that they are not sensitive enough to not offer something like that to lure people in.
They gotta cash in.
Yeah, no kidding. You need your I don't know, like $5 a month atoms they give you. I don't know what they offer.
Yeah,
I want to
that's
say
a-
they changed that too, because I feel like, I don't know, everything with 76, I feel like was surrounded by some kind of controversy at some point.
Well, it was hilarious when it came out. It was like Cyberpunk. Every week there was something in the news.
Yep. Yeah.
It was funnier because Cyberpunk had, I don't know, everything was less funny in 2020, but in 2018 when 76 came out and they couldn't even ship those bags, man, that was like
Yeah, the canvas shortage.
yeah, that was improv comedy right there.
That
It
was
just
good
like,
stuff.
the
or when they
customer
let people
service
into the
rep
help
was
desk.
like, the original bag was too expensive to make. We're not going to do anything about it. Send that email.
And then the influencers got the canvas bags.
Well, and then they let their regular customers into their help desk, and then they were like, people were going in and closing tickets on these issues. And it was bedlam. It was like, wow, you just feel like they were
Every
just
single
falling up
thing.
the stairs.
Yeah.
It was fun. Cyberpunk less fun.
Yeah, that was more serious business as opposed
Yeah.
to tomfoolery.
Again, everything was less funny in 2020. Cyberpunk happens 2 years from now, maybe I laugh. Right now, dead serious.
Well, is that it on Fallout NV?
I think so. What about you?
I was playing a couple games this week. I'll start with old classic. I was playing Kingdom Hearts 1. I was kind of just trying to fill time before Mario 3D World came out on Friday. And like, well, let's go back to the old classics. And I still really enjoy Kingdom Hearts 1. The worlds are pretty short, I guess. Like in my head, they're always way longer than they are, but it feels like you land in a place, you do one thing, and then you're stealing a keyhole right away. Like 45 minutes at most.
Yeah.
I think my clear time for the game was 20 hours, which was like, I remember this being so much longer.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It was a pretty brisk. You clip through that game at a pretty brisk pace.
Yeah. It's actually kind of nice because you're always, when you get bored of one world, you're on to the next one.
It reminds me of playing Chrono Trigger when I went back to play that last year.
Oh yeah, Chrono Trigger.
And it was
snappy.
like, wow, that game just moves. Like you
It
don't ever,
moves.
I'm used to playing. I don't know. Even Final Fantasy IX was a game that sometimes would wallow in place for a while.
Oh yeah.
And comparatively, Chrono Trigger is like running a race.
Well, I'm watching my wife play a game called Tales of Vesperia, and
Why do you say a game called as if nobody's heard of Tales of Vesperia?
well, I don't know if Setzer has. Yeah, Tales of Vesperia.
I have heard of Tales of Vesperia.
She's doing like dungeons in there, and it looks like it takes 45 minutes to an hour, and in Chrono Trigger, an hour is like you're going from one set of time to the next set of time, like 2100 AD to 19 million BC or
Right.
whatever. It's just like the fastest paced RPG
Yeah, I
imaginable.
mean, by the end of it, it's like 15 hours. So, yeah, I mean, comparatively, and Kingdom Hearts, same idea.
Yeah, so it's kind of different to play a game like that. You're just like you don't get a chance to breathe until you go to 100 Acre Woods and get really bored by mini games. But
I, I
other than
skipped
that,
I skipped that when I played last year.
I did not. I always try to do everything, and by everything I mean I beat the Hades Cup, and then I beat the
Yeah,
game.
I skipped that too.
Oh, that's the best part.
I know
So,
it's a good cup, but my angle was to play the series, and I was like, well, I don't want to spend like 40 hours on Kingdom or 30 hours on Kingdom Hearts 1.
the best boss battles are in that.
I agree. So overall, you feel like,
I like it. It's a
I
great
mean,
game.
the public opinion on this game is pretty far slipped into
I've seen
not
people call it
great.
a bad game.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
completely disagree. I think it's really good.
I can see why someone who liked 2 would go back to it and not like it, because it's much more methodical.
It's trying to be more of an RPG than
I
2
agree.
is.
Yes.
Like when one was announced and it was called like a action RPG. To me, it felt like that. Like
Yes.
it felt like you're going through menus sometimes, and it was more, I don't know,
You are
slow
going
paced.
through menus.
Yes. Whereas 2 and 3 and the rest of the series just feel like an action game to me.
I agree.
There are little RPG elements here and there, but for the most part, if you were to compare it to something, I'd say Kingdom Hearts 2 has more in common with, say, like Devil May Cry than it has with Kingdom Hearts 1.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's more in between. I mean, by the time you get to 3, though, it's, the DNA's barely there. Like, I played 1 probably a year after I played 3, and it just really just didn't even feel the same to me.
So I feel like as a result, they feel like this completely different things. I think 2 is, I don't remember if it was one of my top 5 of all time, but it is up there for me. And I don't know, like I feel like 1 and 2 are just, I like it different ways. Good stuff. Very cheesy at times, but that's okay.
Oh, extremely. Did you have nearly as hard of a time with the final boss as I did?
Nope. Easy
I
peasy.
must. Okay, alright. It must be the Hades
Same
Cup.
here.
Same here as in what? Like, it was too easy?
Yeah, I thought it was very easy.
Well, when I was a kid, I remember it was a cakewalk, but every time I've played it since, I think it's because I keep skipping the Hades Cup, but I'm not getting those experience points. I just have a really hard time with it.
I've seen people online say that they think Ansem's really hard, but I've never struggled against
Well,
it.
I think it is a level thing, and it might even have to do with the beginning of the game choices that I made. Because that game has that weird system that I don't remember the other games if they carry it or not, where you're answering those questions that determine your experience point progression and pick your weapons and all that.
Yeah, that's true. It is a little different in that regard.
Yeah, and that stuff, I think probably the way I make those choices early on doesn't always help me when it comes to that stuff.
My big takeaway from it is that I was playing on an Xbox for the first time, and so the control prompts were different. Like this just feels wrong. I'm used to seeing like PlayStation crap. in these
Yeah,
games.
it took a long time for me to get used to that. I am with you. It looks strange.
Yeah, and I know 2 loves the flash triangle button, so I'm curious if it's like gonna be like a giant Y.
Oh
someday.
yeah, that's a good point. Because that button that pops up for you to like parry, I don't even remember if it. I think it was even shaped like a triangle for you to jam triangle.
So, and you gotta press the B button to jump up on the Hydra's back. I just don't know about this.
Yeah. Well, wait till the games come to PC and it's like press E.
Oh yeah.
to
Hey,
Oh
parry.
baby.
A
Yeah.
mini news announcement. It was announced to be coming to Epic Games Store, and you gotta pay $59.99 for 1.5 and 2.5.
For now, those
For now.
those are on sale like pretty much every day.
Yeah, it was the
On
same way on
Xbox Live.
Xbox. They came out at 59, and I
And
bought
within
it.
a month, I bought the first series set on Xbox for $20. So,
Yeah, I have bought them for $20 as well.
Yeah.
That's what they should be.
yeah, it's a good price.
I guess my other thing is I noticed that apparently very few people play on proud mode, because when I beat the game, on Xbox it tells you like what percentage of gamers get their achievement, and it's like 2.4% of people play on proud. Like, what? That's awfully small. That's the ideal way to play the game. So I guess Cheston's casual approach is the preferred method.
Not
Is there a separate achievement for beating it without proud mode?
Yeah, you've got.
You might check that, because I know
I have.
PlayStation does something similar, and if you check those trophies, like, it's always like 30% of people beat the first boss.
Oh yeah, no,
you know?
I've checked it. Well, because on Xbox, when you get a rare one, it makes like a special noise, like ding, and then it shows a little diamond, which is why I looked at the percentage. But like standard was I think 8%, which is still really small. Because when you beat it on proud, you get like all the lower difficulty achievements as well. And
I suspect that a lot of people who buy those collections, one, probably skip Kingdom Hearts 1, but two, if they do play it, they kind of just dip their toes in and get the feel.
well, it's interesting because beginner mode had like 35%. It was
Really?
way higher,
Okay.
and that mode is baby mode.
It supports my idea that I was going to say that I don't think a lot of people play Kingdom Hearts for challenge. I think they like to go through the Disney worlds and jam on the X button and see cool things happen. And
Have their fun.
We need a gritty Kingdom Hearts reboot.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean,
I will say, for my part, I don't enjoy Kingdom Hearts when it gets difficult because to me, when that game scales, it's just not fun. It's not what I'm looking for.
It's more numbersy scaling than I like.
It's too much. It's
I
too
think
much
proud
for me.
mode's the perfect difficulty. The harder it gets, the better. That's one of the.
I can play a platformer on hard mode, and I can have fun with that. But action RPG, that especially as the series go on, gets fast. I just start to get stressed out. And I'm like, nope. You know what? I don't have any interest in this.
I haven't played on standard probably since 2006 or whatever for the series. It's just the hard mode's the way to go. It's the only game where I default to hard. But
It's because you're hardcore.
yeah, you know me. I'm hardcore, much like Setzer in his New Vegas ways.
Yeah.
But the other thing I was playing, as I said, I was biding time until Mario 3D Worlds came out, and sure enough, I've been playing that. I've actually beat every single thing except for the very final secret level, which I unlocked last night. I had sent a text to Cheston through Worlds 3 where I said, like, I think people that think it's an upper tier Mario are insane. And I need to roll that back a little bit. As you get further in, the levels get really interesting, and some of them, after you beat the game, are really inventive and creative. There are some that feel like a shmup, but in Mario, which is insane to say, but it feels it when you play it. I think calling it Super Mario 3D World is the accurate title because it feels like a 3D version of Super Mario World to me. It's just a really solid game. There's not much you can say about it. It's just really solid level
Well,
design all around.
I can poke you for some things.
Well, there's some like one. I don't like that most of the levels are designed for four, like so four players can go through simultaneously. I feel like that hurts the level design.
It does.
I prefer my Mario single player, but
That game is really fun with 4 players, though.
Yes.
It's really chaotic, and it's not at all the way to finish that game. But I have some memories playing with old Setzer over here, and another one of our friends around the holidays, and
you could say Goose. He
It
appeared
was-
on the show.
that's true. Well, we played way long ago when it came out, and I have some very fond memories of just absolute madness.
Oh yeah, it's fun, especially when you get those cherry power ups involved. And
I love the double cherry.
But the problem is, like, I prefer my Mario single player, you know? So, going through those levels that are designed for multiple people is not great, especially in the early on when the stages are super simple. Like, you can beat the first level in the game in like 20 seconds. It's quick.
Yeah. Well, if you're not doing the collectibles.
No, even still, they're really
Okay.
easy to find.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
When you beat the game and you're going to the extra levels, I can't think of anything less fun than trying those with people. Like they're kind of challenging, and I'm like, could not get 4 people on the same page on some of these. It would just be.
I always
No
talk
fun.
about with this game specifically, it's those levels where it has the little flips, the
The
switches,
jumping, yeah.
where you jump and it like switches the platforms from red to blue.
Oh, that would suck with
And
people.
so I thought when we played that, I was like, well, surely it's just gonna map to my jumps.
Nope.
But it maps to everybody's jumps. So it was like teaching. It was like, all right, okay, I'm gonna stand here. All right, now you jump now, and everybody has to jump. We have to time it. It's like such a ridiculous feat that I can't imagine anybody does it without just. I think that game still lets you bubble the second and third and fourth players, so a person can just go through.
When this game was on the Wii U, I played it with my wife, and for those levels, we kind of just like said on 3 we jump or something like that. It was,
Yeah.
it's easier with 2 people than 4.
Yes,
So-
2 is manageable, I think, as long as the other person is at least decently skilled. But 4, I think, is you're just playing to have fun. You're not playing to progress or finish the game. So I wanted to ask,
Yeah.
I was wondering, because when this game came out, keep in mind that, I mean, you and I were both, I wouldn't say we were down on it, but we weren't super keen
Well,
on it.
we had wanted a hub like Mario, like
Right.
what
And this
Odyssey ended up
was,
being.
yeah, this game had come out after the year before. There were two, count them, two new Super Mario Brothers games in the same year. You know, I think the year before that, I have to look. The year before that was Super Mario 3D Land, which really still wasn't what we were looking for.
No.
And then prior to that, you had Galaxy 2, which is very streamlined, linear type Mario, even if it has the Galaxy name. And you
No, it's
have
just like Galaxy 1. It's the same
Galaxy.
linearity.
It is absolutely not, because Galaxy 1 has much more sandbox levels than Galaxy 2. But that's besides the point. What I'm saying is that around that time when this game came out, we were inundated with these course complete Mario games, and it was just so exhausting. So do you feel more receptive to it now that we've had stuff like Odyssey and the 3D collection?
Yeah, there's more of a spot
Okay.
for it.
Because I felt that's kind of how I've been feeling getting excited for it.
I'm not angry when I play it. Like this is the future of Mario.
Yeah.
These worlds, like it, even the bonus content, we have not played much of. The Bowser's Fury or whatever is an open world style
Right.
Mario game. So even in this, they have that. So I'm I am definitely more receptive to it. And as I said, it feels like a 3D version of Super Mario World from the Super Nintendo. So I kind of appreciate it more
Yeah.
for what it
It's
is.
good.
I prefer this infinitely more to New Super Mario, for the record.
Oh yeah. Well, I
So,
think nobody's gonna disagree with that. I mean, that series is fine, but it's very boilerplate, and 3D Land and 3D World are at least a little more creative than that. But I think at the time, it felt like they were related because the worlds weren't overly creative on a face value, and it was using like you play this multiplayer and has the new Super Mario Brothers load out with Mario, Luigi, a Toad. I mean, this one does at least have Peach, I guess. But, it still had that. I heard it yesterday on a podcast. It had the whiff of New Super Mario Brothers.
oh yeah,
And
that's
that
the problem.
whiff was enough that it was like, especially for the Wii U, which was such a bad console, and you were looking for any sign of reprieve.
Right.
And then when this game was announced, you were thinking, all right, finally, 3D Mario is going to justify my purchase. And then you see it, you see the flagpole, and you see the multiplayer, and you just get that immediate feeling of
Yeah, New Super Mario.
sameness.
Yeah, and then you
And
get
it just
angry.
it hurts. It's hard to put people in that context now. I'm looking forward to giving it a more fair shake because at this point we've had Odyssey and the 3D collection. I am more receptive to a Mario game that's a little leaner, a little more of a platforming jungle gym.
Yes, and one thing I do appreciate about this game is that if you remember in 3D Land, one of the requirements to unlock the secret special last world, you have to clear the levels as every character, like and hit the flagpole as each one,
Hmm.
which is obnoxious. And this one, it is simply hit the top of the flagpole, and get all the stars and get all the stamps.
I don't think you're right about that. I think
I unlocked it last night. I am
no,
correct.
but I think there is another extra thing you do get by beating it with all four characters.
Yes, you get an extra stamp, which I don't care about. So
Well, what if you? Well, hey, what if you want to send a cool message to your friend?
yeah, that's the one way. Yeah, but I mean, like, that's if you want to do 100% completion that way, fine. I'm not gonna do it, but at least they let me play the hard level I want to play. So that's what I care about.
That's crazy. Yeah, that was part of the new Super Mario Brothers era was that the ways to get extras so often relied on you having nothing but like this being your only game pretty much, and you having all the time in the world.
But I'll have more on Bowser's Fury later. I have not played enough of it to really say anything. It's just it seems cool. Is all I can really say. So that'll do it for what I've played. So Cheston, what have you played?
Oh, you saved the best for last. So I am gonna cede my game time because I mostly just played Mario Odyssey, and I don't wish to will Setzer into a coma yet.
With more
So-
Mario talk. Yeah.
With
You,
more
you've
Mario.
already exceeded your Mario quota for this week, my friend.
Yes. So look forward to next week or the week after. Maybe if Derek's gonna talk about Bowser's Fury, which is
Uh,
more relevant.
Next week
I'm
is almost assuredly going to be Persona 5 Strikers related.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad you have your schedule mapped out. Okay. All right, then
Take turns.
I can plan to talk about Odyssey next week. So look forward to me talking about a 3-year-old game.
I have to say, real quick as an aside here, the depth of the conversations about Mario just shocks me. Um, because this is, to me, I've only played like a handful of these games, and mostly, in multiplayer with you guys, right? So to me, it really is just, you're jumping around as Mario, you're being Wahoo, right? And there's like this whole language of, oh, it's a linear Mario with a heady scent of cranberry, whatever. I've never had the realization that people discuss Mario in that way.
Well, it's we Nintendo fans, we gotta make do with what we have.
Listen, if I don't have any actual skills, so I gotta make up for it by over analyzing these children's games.
Exactly.
It's kind of how I feel whenever I hear young people that I'm around talk about, you know, I actually I should mention this. I will talk about a game time. I played
Hmm.
Among Us the other day with some folks, and I don't really have much to say about Among Us. I mean, it is what it is. It's one of those secret identity games. It's just on a phone, and for me, it's a little fast paced, and I think it controls badly on a phone. But whatever. It's not for me. But that was something where it was weird because I just thought, it's like, okay, so you play Secret Identity, you try and spot the imposter. But the people I was playing with, like, they had all these weird rules and, like, subsets of rules that they were talking about. Like, they're like, okay, who's the imposter? They're, like, just saying it out loud at the front. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, this is the whole game. And they go, no,
Yeah,
we're
what?
gonna play hide and seek mode. I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? Like, seriously? And there's like all these different variants they had on the base Among Us experience that weren't in the game itself, but they like all understood, and they all thought that I was the weirdo, and I was like, it's just a very, and I've never felt older. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but that's besides the point. The point is that I bought a new console, so I can talk about the next gen experience.
Yeah, how's the
So
Wii treating you?
yeah, the Wii's pretty disappointing. I'm not gonna lie. I thought it was
Revolution.
pretty fun when I had Rayman Raving's Rabbids, and I was spinning my Wiimote around like I was swinging a cow in real life. And then I realized that all the games were just that, and I realized that I didn't want to swing the cow with all my free time.
No.
But anyways, I bought a Xbox Series S, so I think I would like to talk about the whole experience, the breadth of the experience, because it was a unique combination of events that brought me to this point. First of all, getting one of these, as everybody knows, is impossible. I really didn't appreciate how difficult it was because it was mostly something like I was curious about, and I would check the Twitter to see stock updates here and there, and then I would inevitably be busy and then come back and see that stock had updated while I was gone and immediately sold out. And then, I just thought it was this alien experience, and I thought, well, if I was there when it came out, I would have got one, and I would have gone on with my day. But that's really not how it works. I got one because GameStop announced in advance that they were going to do a few bundles of the Series S and the PS5 digital edition. And to be honest, I really couldn't decide which I wanted, so I was like, okay, this is a cool opportunity. They've announced it in advance, and I was in a position where I knew when it went out, I could actually possibly get in. And so I was there when the links went live, went there as soon as they went live. I went to the PS5, to the Series S both, clicked on add to cart. Inevitably, each time it was like, nope, fails. Nope, doesn't work. And I was like, I was literally there the moment the links posted. And I just couldn't wrap my head around it. I was like, gosh, are these bots really that effective? Or is
Hmm.
it, what's the deal? And so eventually, what happened is about 10 minutes after they posted, I just went back to one of those links, refreshed, and clicked again, and lo and behold, it added to my cart, and I thought, oh, well, I guess I have one now. And it seemed miraculous. I'm guessing that it was like a site overload thing initially, and I'm guessing a lot of people just gave up. And I was like, well, I'll just try one more time. And sure enough, there it was. I got the Series S. It was part of a stupid bundle, which I didn't really want it to be. But, I mean, it wasn't a bad bundle, because a lot of those bundles add a bunch of junk you don't want. This one added just like an extra controller and Game Pass and a gift card and whatever. I mean, to me, that wasn't terrible. So I went with it, and it showed up really quick. It showed up Friday, which was about 2 days after I ordered it, which doesn't make sense because GameStop still says it hasn't shipped. But I think the thing about this console that most blew my mind is when I opened the box. You know, I've had a 1S digital edition for 2 years now. And I kind of just expected to open the box and be like, oh, there it is. It looks the same. But my God, is that thing tiny. It is like, I sent Derek a picture, and I don't have my phone on hand. But when I get a chance, Setzer, I'll send you the picture. It's ridiculous. It's half the size. Like, you open the box, and I was like, where is it? Because I was like, you opened consoles before, and, you know, they all look the same. They take up the whole box. You pull it out. Oh, there it is. Grab your cables and stuff and all that. This one, it was so tiny that they had to have these two supports in there that kind of held it up in the center. And it was like, I mean, it was smaller than a Wii U, even. Like, I was like, what? Like, what is this? Like, how is this even possible? Like, I think it's cute. Like, I think the speaker on top looks stupid, but it kind of reminded me of the GameCube with its kind of tiny angular shape. Like, I did like the design other than the speaker. I thought it was pretty cool and slick and all that good stuff. But, you know, when I opened it, I think this console launch window is very different than most, especially for Team Xbox, if you will, because I think, you know, with old consoles, when I got my PS4, I remember opening up and being like, all right, I'm really looking forward to playing Infamous Second Son, brand new game. It has all these new graphics and effects that you couldn't have on the PS3. I remember getting the PS3 and we got Metal Gear Solid 4 and it blew our minds. And, you know, all the games before that, you know, all these consoles, it like open up a window of new opportunities. But when I, you know, open this one, I'm like, well, it does the same thing as the last Xbox. So like on paper, it was, you know, not an especially exciting new console experience. But, however, when I plugged it in, on the flip side, and I turned on, you know, I did what everybody does, I assume. I downloaded Rare Replay and downloaded Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts.
Oh, of course.
Because that's what I was playing on the 1S before I bought this new system. And that is an unbelievable change in terms of experience. Like, I didn't really think it was slow on the 1S, but it is like lightning speed, the load times, just the experience itself. Like, the UI loads, it's snappy, which is weird because the Xbox UI was notoriously sluggish. Now I'm just snapping around it instantly. I open up Nuts and Bolts, and every single load screen, it's like the load screen is trying. It has this animation where this little character floats up and says something to you, but like the character can't even get across the screen to before it loads. Like, it is so quick, and you know, I think that seems kind of slow, and I think eventually that magic trick will be less impressive. But I will tell you, in game, it does make a night and day difference with what I'm willing to tolerate, because that game's loads were stopping me from playing it at all.
They were frequent.
Now that it loads, the game itself is stopping me from playing it because I just don't like it. But at least I can access it. And then I tried Control just to try a more modern game and see what that was like. And that was on Game Pass, so I fired that up. And I mean, overall, I think, you know, visually and whatever, I don't think it looks too different than what I would have experienced if I played it on the 1S. I mean, I'm sure it's at a higher resolution, but I'm an idiot and I wouldn't notice that. And I'm sure the frame rate's a little better because I know that on the 1S it apparently run like dirt. But the loading times for that were like, that was a real game changer, because I got to a fight that was just killing me left and right, and I was very frustrated. And I know that if I was playing that on the 1S with those loading times, which take you back to a checkpoint very far removed from the fight, I would have immediately given up, like after 2 or 3 goes. But I want to say I probably died 6 or 7 times, but it loads so quick back to that checkpoint that it really wasn't a big deal, and I was happy to get through it. So I'm really looking forward to playing some of these older games and seeing how they improve, and maybe being able to truck through them a little more, because I mean the experiences is just like, it cannot be overstated how much faster and smoother it is on the whole. Like it might not be the most exciting next gen experience because I'm playing games I could have played before, but in terms of like what it has done for those games, it is more exciting than when I got my PS4 and I had literally no games to play but one. It is really exciting for me to go back and see how much better these experiences are.
Yeah, it's weird. Like it plays better than it does on its native console, which is very
Right.
strange.
It's weird. Like Banjo-Tooie even, which is a 64 game, and already like, that game plays terrible on a 64. Plays great on a 360 or a 1. But even that, I was like, wow, that's even smoother on the Series S, and I didn't even think that was possible. I think it's kind of insane, and I kind of see where everybody was coming from when these consoles came out, and they were talking about that difference with the solid state drive. It reminds me of when I got the Switch, and the Switch does not have a solid state drive, but it doesn't have a hard drive. And relative to like the PS4 and Xbox One, it did load quicker. And that was a big moment for me. That's kind of why I shifted to the Switch, was it was just such a more pleasant experience in terms of loading. But now, I mean, the Series S just runs laps around it. Like, it's just ridiculous.
I've had a similar experience with New Vegas actually, where I have an NVMe drive on my PC, and the load times are like instantaneous. It just blows me away.
It's crazy. And,
I can't even read the loading screen text.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
the thing with nuts and bolts. And it's kind of funny to me because I remember thinking that loading times were kind of passe. I remember Jack and Daxter was one of the first games that to me started to transcend the long saving and loading screens. And I remember on the PS4 and Xbox One, I just kind of never really thought about loading times. I just thought, you know, loading times are something that's more of a PS2 problem. But now, having played with this, enhanced technology, I'm like, no, we were just more tolerant than maybe we should have been. And actually, like, this is a game changer.
Literally.
Yeah, for sure.
It is, yeah.
Have you experienced quick resume?
That would be where you just quit out, or you don't quit out of a game, but you suspend multiple games at the same time.
Well, you turn off your system and you turn it back on, and you go to play the game, and it just pops you back where you were.
Well, I mean, that was on the. Is that different from what it was on the one? Because I mean, you could do that on the one. It wasn't especially quick because nothing was quick on that. But
Oh, I mean, I saw the title screen for Kingdom Hearts one time.
yeah, I've been playing Odyssey since since I unboxed and set everything up. But I'll see, because I don't think when I played Control, I don't think I suspended it. I think I just stopped. I just turned the Xbox off. So that'll be interesting to see if it just take me right back to that checkpoint I closed at. And that would be good because I mean so what would happen on the one is if you did that with some games it was fine, but like I did it with Banjo-Tooie, and for some reason that game would hard crash if you tried to quick resume. I don't know why at all, but I imagine on this, and so I would get in the habit of every time I quit playing, I'd go to the main menu and just force quit the app to avoid any issues when I start up. But I'll have to try getting out of that habit and see how that goes. I have heard from friends that is a lifesaver.
Well, I look for your report in 2 years when all the new games run crappy. But for now, I'm glad you enjoy your purchase.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, I'll be interested to see that. I thought about downloading because there's not a lot of pure next gen games, but they do have the Medium on Game Pass, which is one of the only games that you couldn't actually play on the one. And so I was a little curious to play that, but I really have been waiting a long time to play Control. So I'm going to stick with that and enjoy that experience.
Well, you guys, I think we're ready to move on to some news here.
Well, this week brings us some truly unprecedented news. We've talked about information security breaches in the past, but nothing like what happened to CD Projekt Red this past week. As The Verge's John Porter writes, the company was the victim of a ransomware attack that claimed to have captured internal financial, HR, and legal data, as well as the source code for some of its most prominent games. The hackers seem to have made good on these claims after publicly releasing the source code for Gwent and successfully auctioning off the remaining material, including source code for a ray-traced version of The Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk 2077. It's not clear yet who won the auction or how much they paid, but can you guys think of anything even remotely comparable to this?
What this made me think of is when Half-Life 2 got hacked, and they just like leaked it online, and they had to kind of change it from the ground up afterwards. But they didn't sell it, you know? It wasn't like a ransom, so in that regard, this is entirely new.
Yeah, I know the Watch Dogs Legion source code got leaked, but it wasn't, this cat and mouse auctioneering game like this.
I can't believe it happened. It feels like something like like an underground art auction or something.
Right, yeah.
It's bizarre. It makes me wonder, like, if the Half-Life leak happened today, how much that source of Half-Life 2 would have sold for, because it was just like a completely different thing than the final release.
Well, what's
So,
the legality? Like, I imagine this is one of
Not.
those crazy legal gray areas, but
No, it's
No?
very much illegal.
it's
Okay.
illegal.
Yeah,
Alright,
this
well,
would
that's
be like
good.
stealing a Rembrandt painting and then auctioning it off. While,
well, right.
you
But
know,
so how is this? So, excuse
It's
me, 'cause
underground
I haven't followed
auction.
this too. But if people know about it, I mean, it doesn't seem that underground.
Yes, they're talking about the buyer anonymously.
okay.
They're probably using
Yes.
Bitcoin to pay, that
Yes,
sort
yes.
of thing.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to follow because I was like, this is weird. But yeah, that's crazy. I was just thinking, like, I mean, these leaks are happening seemingly like every few weeks.
mhm.
And this is definitely like the Capcom leak happened a few weeks ago, or months ago. I don't know. Time is weird, but that was just like, here's Capcom's next 4 years, and they just gave it for free. So it's kind of weird to see this, being bandied
I
about.
think that'll start to trend. I think people are
Yeah.
like, oh, I can make money from
Well,
this.
yeah, if you can make money on this, yeah, and that
Yeah.
sets up a weird precedent where people are like, it's a gamesmanship of which big corporation can I hack and then sell their data on the dark web.
Well, this heads up to hackers. You're going to want to hack Nintendo because Nintendo fans will pay pretty penny for their secrets. So I guess my big takeaway from this is that were they going to sell this Ray Trace Witcher 3 as a next-gen thing? Or is it going to be a free upgrade? I guess we'll find out.
Was Cyberpunk a free upgrade?
I assume that's going to be like the
Or
next-gen
will it be?
Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
I assume
Okay.
so. Because, and also, like, the Xbox, the Series X / PS5 versions of Cyberpunk were supposed to be free upgrades. So
I don't think though, because Witcher 3 is pretty old now, right? Like,
yeah, I think it was
7
released in
years?
2015.
I think they would sell it kind of a la Control, where it's like
I think it'd be like
Witcher 3
$39.99.
Ultimate Edition. Yeah, I think it'll be cheaper, and I think Control Ultimate Edition is as well. But I think this will definitely be cheaper than like $60. But I wouldn't be surprised if you saw like the Witcher 3 Game of the Year Edition Deluxe complete.
plus RT. Well, they could do it like when a big movie comes out and they like it's based off a book and they sell the book with the movie cover. They could like sell the Witcher game with like the Netflix Witcher cover. Like
I think that would really.
you get Henry Cavill on the cover.
I think the author of those books would have something to say about that because I recall him being very salty about the game, and I don't think he has the same salt for the Netflix show.
Well, because he cut a bad deal on the game. That's
He
where
made a
the
bad
salt
deal.
comes in.
Yeah, he agreed to a lump sum.
Yeah, I
Not
remember it.
expecting this little video game from Poland to be a massive mega hit.
I can't really blame him. for
Can't
making
blame him for
bet.
that. Cannot blame him.
I didn't see that coming either.
I would say nobody did.
No.
So
It really was meteoric. Witcher 1 was pretty much ignored. Witcher 2 was...
Right. Witcher 1 was like a Penny Arcade comic mention, and it's like, oh, it's one of those wacky games that only Tycho plays. And then I remember being at PAX East in 2012 when Witcher 2 was coming to 360, and that had a really big presence, and it kind of threw me off. I was like, what the...
well,
what
yeah,
is
Witcher
this?
2 was bigger than expected. Like I
Well, because it
remember
was
when
console.
it was kind of underground at first, and then when it hits 360, it like expanded a little bit. But like Witcher 3 being as successful as it was, I did not
Yeah.
see coming.
Witcher
So-
3 was just, I mean, that was just preposterously anticipated.
So this is it's an interesting thing that happened here.
Oh no, what are they going to do with that valuable Gwent data?
Well, for a multiplayer game like that, the value
I-
is in developing cheats,
Yeah, was
selling
that
cheats.
is that a popular game?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's Hearthstone popular, but
What it is.
I think they still develop expansions and stuff for it.
Okay,
So
all right. I just
Probably
that was
doing
a,
must be
okay.
making some money.
that was a release that I remember people being excited about and then kind of vanished. Not everybody is like Derek playing Tetramaster for 80
Well,
hours.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, if they were to make a Tetramaster standalone, I would want it to play like Tetramaster from FF8. But this Gwent does not play like Witcher 3 Gwent, so I feel like that's where you don't see a lot of the people that were hardcore into it talking about it.
That's really strange. Okay.
Yeah, I remember I tried the standalone Gwent when it first came out, and after playing the tutorials, I queued up for an online match, and within like 3 turns, I had lost because my opponent drew some like mega rare card I'd never seen. That was basically like, okay, you destroy all your opponent's cards and then draw 3 more cards, and then one of the cards he drew was like, okay, you instantly win or something like that. I was like, all right, well, I'm done. I'm
You
out
got
of here.
hit with the Blue Eyes White Dragon. It was over.
Yeah, the Exodia combo. Well, in Little C cyberpunk news, Epic has developed a tool to create lifelike digital humans called MetaHuman Creator. Works by interpolating different human appearances from a library of real people to create unique variations. It really reminds me of NVIDIA's work on generating realistic human faces a few years back. While MetaHuman Creator is not yet available, they posted a very impressive trailer. Did you guys get the chance to check it out?
I did.
I read the article.
My thoughts are, I felt the first face was damn near super realistic. Like I like this could be a human. But then after that, it was way worse. They led with the strong one. Like the bald white guy was like, this is giving me like uncanny valley stuff here. So they're close, but they're not quite there.
Yeah, I think, that's just another puzzle piece for the generative game. We talked last week about generative story and generative voice lines. Now the faces and animations, those are going the same way.
So we're getting closer to like an automated video game reality where all of our games are just created by just an algorithm.
I mean, listen. We've been saying that for a long. I think Spore was saying a lot of stuff about that too at the time. I think they use procedurally generated music. And I think what has been found time and time again is that people and consumers are generally pretty adept at discerning like actual art from these
For
computer
sure,
generated
but
things.
the key is getting to the point where you can't tell.
Well,
Yeah,
I understand
we're taking
that.
steps in that direction, even if we're not there quite yet.
Yes.
I think they're a long way off, and I still
Oh, I
still
agree
think at
with
some
you.
point that you're going to have a very hard time.
You should watch the trailer. It's pretty. I mean,
Oh, I'm
it's
sure.
impressive.
I'm sure.
I
have no
think
doubt.
the difference now is, I mean, look at some of the biggest money makers. They're these live service games, right? And even the biggest studios, Bungie on Destiny, I mean, that's like 800 people. Epic, on Fortnite, they've got untold numbers of staff that they crunch to hell and back. The content pipeline is the limiting factor for getting new content that players will pay for. And I think if you look at the bar on some of this content, it is pretty dang low what people
Oh,
are
you're
willing
right.
to pay for.
I guess I'm not. For me, I'm never thinking of those types of games. So I could see in those games, filling out your NPCs with these strangely generated humans and probably passing the smell test eventually. I would just
I
think
don't
for
know.
like, I think the direction that it seems like a lot of AAA games are going in terms of like main roster characters is find the celebrity and face scan them, because that makes money because people know celebrities and hey, people like Keanu Reeves, so they'll be really happy to play a game where he's one of the main characters. And I think you might end up with a weird combination of that and these generated humans. I could see that happening.
Yeah.
in the AAA space.
I think even a game like New Vegas, which I've been playing a lot lately, would benefit from something like this, where
Yes, it would.
you can just, well, obviously, that's an older game, and the people all look like carved potatoes. But
Those freak shows.
yeah, but that aside, I mean, you really could generate much more lifelike, much more varied people much more easily. I think we'll get to the point where the creative vision is really defining a lot of constraints on what the AI is going to generate and under what circumstances, and then allowing it to take it from there. It really doesn't matter. 99% of the characters you meet in a game don't have like an actual character design, and it doesn't really matter what they look like. And in that regard, I think why not just let the AI pick it and
That's
not
fair.
worry about it.
Yeah, why
Maybe
not?
save some employees a few hours of work,
Go home, see their
a few
families.
100 hours work. Yeah, possibly. That could be cool. Yeah, yeah.
And plus, once you start getting into like generative voice and stuff, you can make generative content that's much more convincing than Radiant quests that Bethesda's been trying to do, where it's like, adventure, we need you to go to Bleak
X.
Ball Barrows and eliminate an infestation of muskrats, that kind of thing.
Yes.
I think that once you have an AI that can actually generate a script as an AI dungeon, and it can generate a voice like we talked about last week, you can really start to get wild with that kind of stuff.
Well, as technology advances, it'll be interesting to see where it goes. I imagine 5 years from now, we'll be seeing a lot of these fruits come to harvest.
Yes, my bald white man simulator.
Well, you need those. You're a bald white man.
Another surprise news story this week: 6 Days in Fallujah, the controversial military shooter that aimed to provide the most realistic depiction possible of 2004's Second Battle of Fallujah, has been re-announced. Originally planned for a 2010 release, the game was cancelled and its original developer Atomic Games closed in 2011. Per IGN, however, the game resumed development in 2016 at Highwire Games. This new incarnation was revealed this week and is slated for a late 2021 release. Is this, the second time this week I'm asking, have you guys heard of anything like this before?
No, this is really weird. Like, of all the things that get uncanceled, this literally who first-person shooter from 2010 I've never heard of.
Oh, it's not literally who. You didn't heard
no,
it?
this was
Even heard of
big
this?
news.
This was
I
huge.
did not hear
Yeah.
about this at the time.
This was
Yeah, this was
very
pretty big news.
controversial.
But I mean, I can see why a shooter set in in the Iraqi War. Yeah.
Yes, it was a little too soon when it was canceled for sure.
Well,
Some
not
would
only
argue
that, it was a little
probably a little too soon now.
questionable.
Yeah.
Especially back then. I think that people are more willing to, a decade later, more willing to accept a game that has something to say about something. This game was supposedly about, the grueling misery and the reality of war,
Just what I wanted. Another one of those.
which, when you're bunny hopping around in Call of Duty with double shotguns, that's not palatable, right? You know what I
Right.
mean?
There's some tonal disparity there.
It seems like some people who are smelling around this say that there's a faint hint of perhaps U.S. military interest in
Oh,
this
yeah.
game coming back, which is weird,
Well, that's what you want to hear. This
Yeah.
propaganda game. That's cool.
right?
If you recall the company Atomic Games, they were originally developing a training simulator for the Marines,
Oh.
and the Marines with whom they were working got deployed to Iraq, to Fallujah, and then when they came back, they were like, hey, you should make a game out of this, because it's, this really harrowing, grueling battle. Yeah, I mean, the U.S. military subsidizes the NFL, right?
Yeah.
So it's no surprise they would get into subsidizing video
Yeah,
games.
yeah. And they have a history of it too.
Well, they
was
had
it-
the Army game.
Yeah, the U.S. Army, that game, that multiplayer game. So, this to me doesn't. I don't know. I don't think this passes It cuts the mustard for what I would like to see come back from being canceled 11
Well,
years
me
ago.
neither. Well, I mean, I certainly don't want a propaganda game coming like being the
Yeah,
one.
I mean, one, I wasn't interested 11 years ago. It was more of a like weird curiosity. So when I saw that it came back after being initially surprised, I was like, oh man, boy, maybe they should have left it dead.
Well, yeah, like a 2010 Iraqi war game feels like hatred levels of curiosity to me. Like, what were they
Oh god, what
like?
was Hatred? I don't remember that one now.
It was like the ultimate like edge lord. Like,
My name
I
is
hate
not
everyone.
important.
Yes, like
Oh,
he hates
I kind of
everyone.
remember.
He kills
I kind
everyone.
of remember, yeah.
Like, it's for the edgy teenagers that love just
Yeah.
hating everything.
This is weird, and I don't want to.
Yeah, it made me think like, well, what other like long canceled games would you want to see uncanceled?
StarCraft Ghost.
Hell no.
I want to know though. I want to know.
Modern Blizzard, I don't really. But I mean,
Exactly.
our good friend, one of our good friends, bought a GameCube specifically for StarCraft Ghost, and that game never came out. I would like to see Final Fantasy Versus 13 in its original form.
Yeah. At some point, they were batting around Vector Man for PS2.
Yeah.
So that I guess.
Yeah, or Mega Man X, the first-person shooter. I would like to see.
And I'd be going out of character if I didn't say before Assassin's Creed was Assassin's Creed, and it was a Prince of Persia game. So that one.
Mother 64. Bring out
Ooh,
this 64
that
DD.
That is a good one. But I feel like that's a controversial game. Then, just imagine that now. That propaganda.
I don't know. Is there anything you can think of, Setzer, that was canceled that you'd like to see?
Not really. I don't really buy into the pre-release memery. I
Yeah.
take it as it comes. You know what I mean?
Oh, I just thought of one.
What's that?
What's that?
Nintendo
Shocker.
World Series Baseball. What was that game called?
Oh, for the GameCube with David
Yes.
Ortiz on the cover.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, unfortunately, it has lost its place now. Would it be special?
Game was ahead of its time.
It was ahead of its time.
When it didn't come out, but
Oh, I was mad. I was mad when it was canceled.
it's a first-party Nintendo licensed MLB game. That's so much potential. Its defining feature was that it had a fast play mode, which now is like so standard. But it wasn't then. And it had David Ortiz on the cover. Everyone's favorite Italian plumber.
The biggest Nintendo mascot of all.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. He's on my Mount Rushmore.
Also back with a vengeance is Mass Effect, with the remastered Mass Effect Legendary Edition coming May 14th. Mass Effect 3's failure to stick the landing created one of the most memorable controversies of its time, with many fans subscribing to the indoctrination theory. Essentially the idea that the game's final scenes were intended to be a delusional hallucination. BioWare later released the Extended Cut, a series of narrated slides that reflected on the outcomes of some of the player's other choices. Cian Mayer of The Gamer spoke to several people involved with the project, including with writer Chris Hepler, who confirmed the indoctrination theory was not the intended interpretation. Now that we've all played it, what were your thoughts on the ending, and do they align with any of the developers?
It's funny to hear developers come out and say they weren't fans of the ending because we were told that we are entitled gamers for hating it for so long. I remember there was a big to-do about them even doing the extended version because like, oh, we're letting the gamers win, and now it's like, oh, they were on our side, which to me it says it was all like EA marketing to paint their critics as bad, but that's been the case for a while. I put a bad taste in my mouth when this story came out. so it's okay now to say the ending is bad, but back then when people were on it, it wasn't. Okay, I get it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll never forget that Colin Moriarty video where he dropped the entitled meme onto the Swerve.
Oh yeah, and Entitled stuck around for a long time.
It's still around. It's still around.
It's so obnoxious.
Yeah, I mean, name one other industry, one other product where, not liking it is the customer's fault.
Yeah, it's stupid, and it's a form of advertising. And as for like them saying they didn't write the indoctrination theory or they didn't intend it to be that way, like no shit. Usually stuff like this is the reader reading too much into it, or the player in this case, and I was not surprised to hear that when they said they weren't smart enough. Like, yeah, I played Mass Effect 3. I could have told you, your your story
Yeah, they're
wasn't
not
going for something like
exactly.
that.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
so I'm not surprised. I was surprised to see that people were on our side.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I remember even back in 2012 seeing the whole indoctrination thing start to take root and thinking this is like the most desperate plea, what we would call cope now.
Yeah,
I don't know. I remember playing that and thinking, the Rannoch arc with Legion was the only like interesting part of the entire game, and thinking, the Tachanka arc was fun. It wasn't bad, but it was kind of like maybe a little by the numbers. You know what I
it
mean?
was cool to see the Genophage plot play out.
Yeah, and finally get resolved. But I I don't know. I kind of felt like that was one where all the pieces were in place and you were just gonna let them rip. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But then the ending, I just remember like turning off my computer after playing the ending, and for a game like Mass Effect, it's customary for me to do like a quick run through just to see like how the choices would be different.
yeah.
If I selected different options. And this one, I was like playing the tutorial level, and I was like, you know what? I don't think I'm gonna do this. I don't think I'm gonna play this again.
I kind of agreed with what they were saying, where like the game itself felt like a conclusion, where the ending wasn't a big deal. The problem is that they did not advertise it like that. They told us like several times in the lead up, like your choices are gonna make like there's like 10,000 different endings or
Yeah, I
some
mean, Casey
bizarre
Hudson
number.
is on record saying it's not gonna be ABC. There's gonna be thousands of different permutations, right?
Well, the first thing I remember from the ending was like a shit post on 4chan that showed like the red, blue, and green endings, like in a picture. I'm like, oh, there's no way that's real.
Yeah,
And sure enough, it
they
was exactly
desaturated
that.
that and recolorized it. There's no way it's really like that. I remember thinking the same thing.
And then when I played, I was like, they really did that. That really is the ending.
Yeah,
Like
and you're
that
too
is so
stupid if
lazy.
you don't like it. You know?
Yes, and that was obnoxious. Like you're just not like seeing their vision. Like no, I saw their vision. I think it's bad. It's okay not to like something.
Yeah, I really hated everything about this situation. Like, I think when I think about how things are now, when you discuss things on the internet, I always look back to this because it reminds me of the Star Wars stuff. It's like, you know, you have a lot of very reasonable people who have the very reasonable opinion that this ending is bad. I mean, I hated the ending. Played it probably I think 2 years after everybody else.
Yes,
Loathed it.
with Virgin
Just
Shepherd.
all around. Yes, I had the Virgin Ship run. All around bad time with that ending. And there are a lot of people like us. And then my problem was always there's a lot of people who had the same opinion, but maybe took it a little far with some of their language.
Sure.
Whether
It's
or
the
not I agree
internet.
with them. Yeah, I know. I know, but I feel like this is kind of the genesis of that, right? And then
Yeah.
you have the people who are defending it, and some of them, there were some well-meaning defenses, but then there were a lot of defenses that were like, like the entitled one. That's just like, it's so dismissive of someone else's opinion that, oh, you're just saying this because you're an entitled man baby who,
It's your moral failing.
yeah, exactly. I think a responsible position, if you're going to take that, would be like, listen, this is the ending that they chose. You may not like it, but it's not an excuse to be an idiot on the internet. But that wasn't the tact a lot of people took.
No.
And so I think you created a weird situation where I think you really started to see that schism form between the press and the players because, some of the players colored it and some of the journalists colored it, and now it's kind of rotten.
Well, yeah. Well, it was you don't know better than your
Yeah.
media
Oh,
betters.
right. And then on the other side, it was this franchise belongs to me, and you're like attacking it by defending the like. It just people are taking it way too personally, I think, and I didn't like it. I don't have any desire really to continue with that series beyond maybe playing the first and second game again. But it's just I think it's a nasty situation.
Well, this is what immediately like alerted me to the insincerity of corporations doing things for progressiveness, because what EA would do to like hide behind the complaints when they were talking about how progressive the game was, and like if and so at a point where they were suggesting that people that had a problem with the game had a problem with progressive politics, which is reductive and gross in my
Right.
opinion.
Yeah, it's not at all why I don't like the game. It's because it's bad. Could you romance the robot, Edie?
Yeah, well, no, you couldn't because that was
Okay.
Joker's girlfriend.
Yeah, she's taken.
Yeah, they needed
seems
to.
like a
They
weird-
said we got to give Joker a case
It
of the
seems like a weird
She had
place to
to
draw a
choose
line in the
girl.
sand. I feel like that should be an option.
Yes. No. Well, you can't date your ship. That's just crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's a little
Yeah.
too high concept sci-fi for Mass Effect.
Yeah.
You're
we're,
right.
We're looking at more of a pulpy franchise here.
Can we take a quick aside to talk about the Legendary Edition, since this is where this news came from?
Yeah. Go for it.
Where do we stand on the Legendary Edition?
I think it looks like they turned up the bloom, so to speak.
Well, that's usually what happens. It's an easy way to make it look more modern.
It doesn't look a ton better to me, or better at all, really.
Well,
but
to me it looked kind of like, I don't know, it looked technically better in some places, but I saw some screenshots for the first game that I was just, I don't know, it like I think, what's that first, Eden Prime? Like they had some screenshots of that, and it's not like I think that was like an unassailable first area of a game or anything, but
no.
the screenshots I saw, I was like, it just doesn't have that, that first game had a nice,
Feels
space
gritty.
opera-like
Yeah.
wonder to it, and I felt like the screenshots I saw didn't capture that. I'd be curious. I'd be more curious to see 2 and 3 because I don't. To me, those didn't have that same style. They didn't have
Yeah.
that same gritty.
They're a
what was
little
it?
more smooth
A little more
over.
sleek. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
a little more modern sci-fi, like a little more like modern Star Trek sci-fi.
Mhm.
So like those, I think will probably actually be better in the long run. I don't know about 1 though.
I'll let you know because we are going to be getting this.
Oh, I'm sure. I
because-
have no doubt.
Because my wife was playing the Mass Effect trilogy and liked 2 so much that she actually stopped because she wants to play the remasters instead.
Yeah,
Because because it was like I want you to play the Shadow Broker DLC and I don't have it on
Yeah.
Xbox, and there was a bunch of DLC we want you to buy, and it's like you could either spend $30 on a decade-old DLC, which is ridiculous by the way, or you can buy the new version which has all the DLC included.
Oh, I forgot about that. That
So-
actually might be. Yeah, I think this will be something that towards the end of the year when it's inevitably like $20, around the holidays. I think I might check it out then because I never did get into the DLC, and I know that people say that, in the second and third game especially, some of that DLC is better than the rest of the game.
I think
So,
yes, and 3.
be
I
curious
think
to see it.
the fan service DLC, I think it's called Citadel, is the best piece of content in that game, and in 2, Shadow Broker is the best piece of content in 2. So it's
Really?
DLC, in my opinion.
You guys are gonna hate me, but I didn't think Shadow Broker was that amazing.
I don't think it was amazing. I think it was the best part of 2, though. That's just because I don't. Well, like Mass Effect 2 had some problems, in my opinion. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Shadow Broker was just like a nice. It told a nice little compact story, and it gave you the dossiers, which I thought were kind of neat. So
yeah, I'll be curious because I think I played that. Gosh, I feel like it's probably been nearly 10 years now since I played 1 and 2 way late after everybody else, and then 3 I jumped in way late as well. And I still have some lingering resentment for 2. But I'm curious if maybe time has healed those wounds. Every time I talk about it, I get even angrier though because people who love 2, and they will not hear like any argument I
Yeah.
make. They will come up with an immediate deflection, like, no, actually, it's not that way.
I have a different perspective now because my wife's a BioWare fan, and she didn't play these games when they came out, and she played Mass Effect 1 for the first time this year and wasn't that crazy about it and seemed to really enjoy 2. So I think it's just something that we could not see at the time. So I need more information. So
Well,
I
she
will.
likes the BioWare-y stuff.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
She likes the relationships and the character
The characters.
customization. Okay, I don't do that. I run with Bald Shep, and he's a virgin. That's what I do.
Well, no, I'm saying like I want to see like 2 and 3 like from her perspective, so I can kind of get a
Is
fuller
she playing
picture.
as Femship?
Yeah,
I think I might, because I heard that's the better. We were talking
she's
about this
a better
the other day.
voice actress.
She's a better
than-
voice actress than the guy is, because the guy might as well be procedurally generated.
I think that's what's endearing about him, though. See,
he is very
he
straight
lives
line.
such a like corny space opera vibe, you know, like
It's
a
true.
CW show.
Yeah, and he's the straight man with all these weirdos that gather
Exactly.
around.
Well, he was a straight man until Mass Effect 3, and then you could make the option to be okay.
Oh, could you not do that in 2?
I don't think
Nope.
so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
The
guess I forget that 2
Garrus
was like a
was female
2010
only.
game, and
Yeah.
that video games as an industry still had a long ways to go in 2010.
They did.
I
Yeah.
forget that sometimes.
Yeah, in Mass Effect 3, they added some random guy named Steve to the Normandy.
Oh, right.
And he could
Yeah,
be
he
gay
just randomly
romance.
told you. It's-
Yeah, he's like,
I
by the
forgot.
way, I'm gay, so, you know.
And you could also
People-
romance Caden.
Oh boy.
Oh, could you in 3?
Yes.
I don't remember. I know that his like earlier romance was cut or something like that.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I think you can, because I heard something about him the other day.
You
So-
might be able to romance Buff McLaserbeam or whatever the hell that dude's name is. The really
Dude.
muscly guy.
Oh, I forgot about that guy. I hated
James
him.
Vega.
Yeah, I think you can romance
Yeah.
James Vega too.
Oh, to me, that was like the Gearsification of Mass Effect coming full circle. It's like, okay, now we just have Marcus Phoenix in the game.
Well, to me, like, if you remember in Rise of Skywalker, they had that random like shipmate for 2 seconds. He was really spiky.
Oh,
His
the
name was,
weird
like-
guy?
Because his name was like Claude or
The
something.
slug.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he,
the
he was
slug,
he was in
yes.
the movie for like 2 minutes, but they were like acting like he was there the whole time. Like, oh hey buddy, let's get in our ship and go. And
Hey,
everybody,
Poochie.
that's what James Vega reminded me of. It's like I've been here the whole time. I'm your buddy James. Like, no,
No, you're not. Get away.
you're not. You weren't in Mass Effect 2.
You reek of Axe body spray.
I
Yeah,
remember being willing to give that character the benefit of the doubt until like the first mission, where at the very end they're like, "Oh my God, you know, we need to get the Crucible plans, right? The blueprints," and they're downloaded into this robot, and the robot's taking the shuttle, and James Vega screams, "I got this one!" and shoots the shuttle out of the sky, and it explodes into a fireball, and it's like, you just destroyed the plans, you idiot.
you fool.
If they wanted to make that character better, they should have made him clearly out of place, like he really was. Where like every time he did something, the characters were like, "What's that guy's problem?" Like he's so intense and shouty all the time. You know,
Such a
and Mass Effect
meathead.
is ostensibly a quiet game. At times, it was.
It was.
Most of the
Yeah.
It was at one point. And then you have this character just going out like Gears style. It should be a commentary on the average first-person shooter character.
Yeah.
But again, too high concept.
I
Wouldn't go.
actually think that character is okay. He's kind of likable towards the end, but I can certainly he's certainly like a big warning flag when you see him. Like, what? What's going on?
Well, maybe one day we can have a more fully fleshed out conversation about Mass Effect.
Maybe we'll add this one to the book club.
Oh, 3 is a Mass Effect 3
Well,
is a
3 is
easy-
a real humdinger, but you do the whole thing with it.
Oh, I mean, I think I might try it again when Legendary Edition comes out because I did play Mass Effect the trilogy I think in 2019 and I came away, as you might remember, not loving it.
Yeah, you actually, you've piqued my interest. I'll keep my eyes on this.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll
I'll put
we'll
it
get
on the
back to you
old
this
wish
one.
list.
And finally this week, as one star rises, another may well fall. BioWare's similarly controversial 2019 release, Anthem, has been undergoing a major overhaul for most of its life, and Bloomberg's Jason Schreier writes that this week was make or break. EA will decide whether to continue efforts to resuscitate the mega flop or pull the plug, with news expected next week. Over under Anthem Next sees the light of day?
0% chance.
I think 0. Yeah, I think maybe a year ago, different story. But I think BioWare has this weird unearned momentum from Mass Effect and Dragon Age, and they're gonna double down on that, I think. And they should. They should.
Because people that like BioWare don't give a shit about
Yeah.
action shooter
I think
shit.
most people have given up, even the people who were denying that Anthem was bad. I think they've given up.
the article that this was linked, like that talked about it, and even talks about like how redemption stories have happened before, and they say FF14. I guess the difference is like people were actually enthusiastic about FF14 at one point, like
Well,
when
I
it
mean,
came.
it's Final Fantasy, right?
Well, yes, exactly. It's a long-running franchise. It's a little easier for a long-running franchise to get a second chance and
Yeah.
a new
Or
IP.
even something like No Man's Sky, like sure it came out and was poor at
Right.
launch, but you still had a lot of people who swore by it, and it was doing
Yeah.
things that were interesting. I don't think you really have that. I'm looking at r/Anthem the game, my old favorite stomping grounds from back in 2018,
18? Yeah.
19.
February 2019.
Thank you. From back then, and it's pretty dead.
When No Man's Sky came out, I feel like there was excitement for it. There was it wasn't like a dead on arrival. When Anthem came out, I do not remember anyone really caring that much about it. Like people kind of understood it was going to be
Yeah, well, it had
lackluster.
that really strained launch that was like because you had the early access people, and then you had like it was like one of those weird things with a big flow chart of how you get access and when you get access. So it was like 2 or 3 weeks of like prelude, and you heard all these people going, this isn't really that good. And I think Setzer, weren't you in on like one of those first few weeks?
Yeah, it came free with my GPU, and I played this game. I beat the story, but that wasn't enough to get me to, maximum level to start the end game loot grind BS, and I kind of cashed out. My appraisal, and the game hasn't had many updates. Its last update was like 6 months after release in August 2019, I think. And my appraisal was this game is just irredeemable. Say what you will about it's another live service looter shooter Destiny ripoff game. There's an audience for that. The IP is bad. The world is bad. And to my mind, if you can't get a world that sinks its teeth into people, then they're going to be a lot more critical of the gameplay. And Anthem's gameplay was not great. People talk about, oh my god, the combo system, the combos, but that's such a two-dimensional mechanic. It's not enough to carry a whole game.
I remember when this came out, I feel like the only people that thought it was going to be something special were journalists. I don't remember like a lot of groundswell among people that play games.
There were certainly some people, but they didn't last.
But there always are.
Yeah, there always are. But to me, it like when it launched and it was a flop, it was like the least surprising thing ever. Like it looked.
Oh yeah, well yeah, and a lot of the journalists you mentioned were kind of canaries in the coal mine because they were in those 3 weeks or 2 weeks or whatever it was, and they were saying something is not right here.
The way I remember it was, it just soured very quickly from this is gonna be huge. This is the Bob Dylan of games, and it's coming out. And then, like you said, that weird gray area release window happened, and it just sort of devolved from there. It withered on the vine.
Oh, you're right about
oh
that.
Oh my god, this game is awful.
You're right. It was like overnight. It was like boom.
Yeah.
It was quick. It did not.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Reddit Anthem the game became my go-to very quickly because it was like the saddest little club of people who had invested but knew, like even they, the loyalists, were like, this is not right. And then you have to remember, part of what made Anthem so bad was they were laying out their roadmap and they were missing deadlines immediately, or they were adding like little bits of content that were so minor, and then taking them away. And it was like, this game has no content, and you're adding stuff and then removing it. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I just remember, they had that big roadmap, and they were like, don't worry, guys, we know it's in rough shape, but we have this comprehensive roadmap of how to make an actually good game that we didn't do in the first place, but never mind that, we're going to do it now. And they did, like, the first little check mark on their roadmap, and then they were like, yeah, roadmap's canceled.
Oh yeah, that's right. They canceled the roadmap. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's been in this state of Anthem Next
Yeah.
for
2 years.
I mean, 2 years.
Yeah.
And at some point, I kind of just assumed it had been shuttered. So, I expect I will hear as much. It's looked like based on
Yes.
what's going on. It'll be next week that
Yes.
you'll know. You'll see. It'll be like the Pope. We'll see smoke out of BioWare's chimney. And if it's white, the game is continuing. And if it's black, the game has been canceled.
Well, let me just say that if they don't cancel it, it is a catastrophically dumb move. This is a money pit.
I think it's even too
Yeah.
dumb for EA. So
Talk about good money after bad.
Let's be real here. The Mass Effect remasters are going to sell gangbusters. They're going to make a
Yeah.
ton of money for
Yeah.
BioWare.
And if you let this game go, you just let it go away.
It cancels
You're gonna
it,
have
yeah.
a very small amount of people who are upset, and everybody else is gonna be like, good, move those resources to Dragon Age.
Everybody else won't even remember this game
No.
in 5
That's true.
years.
Yeah, exactly. Like a month from after this cancellation, you won't hear anything about it again. It'll just be gone. Anthem is just a big money pit. You just got to cut your losses and run at this point.
Yeah, and maybe use some of the ideas from it in your Mass Effect game. I don't know,
Sure.
jetpackies.
Yeah.
Make some fun jetpack stuff, or
You
I don't
can-
know, make
you
a
can
new
put,
game.
You can put
Doesn't
jetpack
suck.
stuff in, but to say it like pretend it's new. Don't say it's from Anthem. Just be like,
Right.
oh, we invented jetpacks for this game. I feel like the name Anthem is tarnished.
It is.
So just like pretend it's brand new for Mass Effect.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just call it. I'm pressing F for Anthem a week in advance. I think by this time next week it'll be official.
So we'll have our special
Yep.
Anthem funeral service next week.
So, our Viking funeral.
I'll put it in the obituaries.
It's hard for us to relate because we were never Anthem people because we saw the E3 trailer when it first debuted, and I think we were both like, oh, that's it? That's what you're
Yeah,
doing?
I was like, that's
You know,
what you're.
we were never on board that thing, so we didn't have the same arc with it.
No, we didn't.
Maybe
I
why
remember
we're just-
seeing the trailer and thinking this is like the bullest of bullshots.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
it was
yeah, it
terribly.
looked
It was a
fake.
huge lie. It was a
Yeah,
huge lie.
yeah, and it was. It turns out.
It was.
So.
It was very much so.
The biggest ones since either Bioshock Infinite or Killzone 2, depending on who you ask.
Or
Watch Dogs.
Cyberpunk.
Well,
Or Cyberpunk.
Cyberpunk also.
Yeah.
Witcher 3.
I mean, every game's a lie. I mean, if you read those stories about E3 trailers, I mean,
I was going
every
for big
game's a lie.
hits.
It's
Big
just it's a matter of how much of a lie, or how much of the lie makes it through to the final product. I threw an addendum on the news items. I thought it was very exciting, and I think we missed it last week. The Prince of Persia remake has been delayed indefinitely.
Not surprising. I think it'll never come out as a
yeah.
result.
No, I think it
Yeah.
will. I think it will come out.
Nope.
Well, I think it will. The letter made it sound very much more like a, it was originally delayed anyways because of COVID, like a month.
Well, it said to come out in March.
It was set to come out. Well, it was originally January. They delayed it like a month and a half to March for COVID reasons, and now it's delayed indefinitely. I think we will see this again.
I don't.
think. Well, I know you think that, but I think the only reason they delayed it indefinitely is I think that they thought that Prince of Persia is such a small time franchise now because of their doing that they could just roll out whatever and the fans would just lap it up happily. And I think that they saw that wasn't necessarily true. You had a lot of fans who are not very pleased with it, and I'm thinking we'll see hopefully something similar to when Sonic the Hedgehog went back into production and came out on the other end a much more appealing hedgehog.
When was that?
The movie.
The movie.
Oh, the movie. I was about to say Sonic Forces. What are you talking about?
I think they will go to work on it, and they will see that it costs more to make it presentable than they want to spend on Prince of Persia, and then they will cancel it.
I just don't see it. I think from what my impression, it was going to come out in January, so it's very far along. So
Right.
at this point, it would just be working, graphical overhauls because they really didn't show any gameplay.
Delayed
So
indefinitely tells
the
me.
engine
like,
is there.
oh.
Yes, I understand that, but this is COVID, so you're not really. I mean, in the COVID era, you're not seeing a lot of developers who are super keen to put dates on things because dates slip. So I think the indefinite is smart, and I look forward to them. I look forward to the second pass at this.
Setzer, you're on my
Game.
side. Do you think it's never coming out?
I don't know.
You're in the
You
middle.
know,
You're in the
Listen, it was almost
On
done.
the
It was
one
almost
hand-
done.
Indefinitely delayed. usually does mean
Yes, I agree. That wording is not
now.
great.
This is Ubisoft, and they did just say like this past week or something they're going to put more emphasis on remasters and remakes and free-to-play games and mobile games as opposed to just like big AAA releases. So you never know, this could be a pivot into that strategy. But I think that, not being a Prince of Persia fan myself, I think that the quality of the game as it was previewed was so poor that it's kind of like you can dig a trench with a backhoe or a spoon, right? These guys got a spoon, and I don't think all the time in the world is going to dig that trench, right?
Well, I think it's just visual. I think from what I remember, it's been a while, but I don't remember them really mentioning much about the gameplay or anything. Because it was going to be a pretty pure remake, from what I remember. It just looked bad, and
if that's the only thing, then just shit it out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, because that's what I'm saying. I think it'll be very much like Sonic, where they could have easily put that movie out and it still would have done okay, probably. But now that movie did well enough that they're doing a sequel, and people are generally weirdly gung ho about that movie and that property in a way that they weren't. And I think that I don't think they're gonna like do a bunch of Prince of Persia stuff by any means, but I do think this very small studio at Ubisoft, is going to see this one through, and I would predict by the end of this year it'll be. I think it'll be a pretty light touch, but I think you can do a lot with a light touch here and there on that. I think there are a lot of lighting issues that I think made that game look way worse. You can hide a lot of ugly things with lighting if you're smart, so I'm hoping they get to it.
I guess we'll see. We'll have to keep this in mind. So whenever it is officially announced as canceled, I'll do the big "I told you so." But we shall see.
Well, I don't. Again, I think the game was pretty much done. So that's kind of an old-fashioned thing for a game to be done and then canceled. They don't do that as much anymore.
It's not everything has that
because
Ashes.
Now you can just push something out digitally and be like, "Oh, look, it's out digital. Whatever."
True.
Hey, we didn't have to spend any money publishing this. So
they have
here you
canceled
go.
digital games before, though. So.
Well, yeah, they have, but I think, even if this game were to be dumped out, it would do well enough digital only that they could justify it, probably. Because, again, they didn't seem like they put that much into it. So, and listen, I think us Prince of Persia fans are, I think even if we were complaining about it, which I was, I still would have bought it. So,
yeah.
Because what else am I going to do? Play Assassin's Creed? I don't think so.
Well, that'll do it for us this week. You can reach us on Twitter at alltodaypod or on email at alltodaypodcast@gmail.com. This is Derek.
I'm Setzer.
And Cheston.
And we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Adios.
Adios.